Okay, today we're going to talk about the Kiwi Ears KE4. This is a $200 IEM that is currently the new go-to hype IEM around its price point. It is also somewhat in the new meta category, but we'll talk about that. And to go over this IEM with me in today's review, I have brought with me Listener. Listener, he's one of the regulars on the podcast that we do, The Noise Floor, every week, and then also he writes for us up on headphones.com. So we're going to be going through this IEM, and let's get right into it. Okay, so just as we get going here, for folks who want a more in-depth written article on this, Listener has already put together a review that's up on headphones.com right now. And as usual, headphones.com is what makes all of this possible. So if you like what we do here and you want to consider supporting us, check out headphones.com for your next audio purchase. Some disclaimers here as well. These units were sent to us by Linsol. And also this unit here that I'm holding was sent by Critical from his new store, the Hangout Audio store. First, should we talk about the configuration? You actually might know more about this. I think it's BAs and dynamic drivers.
Yeah. I think it's 2DD, 2BA. If we're wrong, you can edit that in. But yeah, pretty sure 2DD, okay. 2BA.
The driver configure doesn't really matter that much. We're just glad that it's dynamic drivers for the bass, right? Is that fair to say?
Yes, we are. Yeah,
all right,
definitely.
So the rest of it is basically how the tuning is achieved, how the frequency response is achieved. And we'll get into the sound quality here momentarily. But let's first talk about the build and the design and the comfort, because that is, in my opinion, my favorite part about this IEM.
It is a standout feature of this product in particular, yeah.
Yeah. So, I don't know, do you, like, first of all, how it looks. I don't like the fact that it has Kiwi Ears as a logo on the shell, but everything else is the most Andrew type of design ever. It's just simple, no nonsense. Kind of like a silvery sheen to this faceplate.
Yeah, dude, not gonna lie. Like the first time I saw this, I was like, yeah, this is a bit of Andrew. But I think you and I are in full alignment, both on like that kind of aesthetic being preferable, but also like logos kind of being not great.
Yeah, the rest of the shell is this fairly standard kind of resin style, similar to what you might find with like the The Audio IEMs or many, even a lot of the new IEMs do this. It's pretty standard. I would not say that this is overly large, but it's a medium-sized shell.
Medium at largest, yeah.
Comfort is excellent, for me at least, and I can wear this IEM all day. No issues with the nozzle, no issues with the fit. It's really, really good for that. They made it ear-shaped, at least for my ears.
Yeah.
So that's thumbs up.
Yeah, full credit to them. I mean, I had the same things to say basically about the comfort. It is definitely like an all-day, no problem wear. And the thing you mentioned about using DDs for the bass, one of the reasons I'm glad they did that is because that means they were able to vent it at least significantly enough for the pressure buildup to not be an issue for me. So yeah, I mean, medium size, decent molding, venting, it's checking all the boxes for me comfort-wise, basically.
The thoughts on the cable?
It's all right. So I was a bit surprised to see that they didn't go for something that was like modular connectors, because we're kind of at a point where even IEMs that are like half this price are coming with fairly nice cables with at least one swappable termination. I'm not going to necessarily ding this for it though, because it's still like fairly compliant, good length, feels solid. Yeah, no real complaints. I do kind of wish that the ear hooks weren't there. I'm just generally like a no ear hooks guy. Like in my opinion, if you have a chin cinch, and this does have a chin cinch, then I don't need ear hooks.
Yeah, I also similarly, I have no issues with the cable. It's not the most fancy looking or feeling cable, but it's a cable and it works. It does the job, and you do get the chin cinch there. The tips are somewhat unconventional. They look kind of like this. They have this kind of weird kind of cover to the front with a bunch of holes in it. Somewhat unconventional. I like the way the tips look. Do you have any thoughts on the tips?
So yeah, I think more brands should do the whole like wax guard in the tip thing instead of in the, I guess, metal grill of the IEM nozzle itself. Just because tips are way more easy to replace if you for some reason can't get any gunk out of them, and you can just take a tip off and clean it from the back if you need to. I do not love as much kind of the spring tip-esque build to the core of the tip, how it has a kind of like, I don't know if the camera can see this, but kind of like a springiness to it. It causes it to kind of deform a little bit unpredictably between seatings, and so like sometimes with this IEM, which we'll get into how it affects the sound, but I find sometimes it sounds different based on how deeply I've inserted it and how that kind of compressible bit is sitting. So I don't hate the tips or anything. Like, comfort is absolutely fine with them, but I do kind of prefer stiffer tips for just the fact that they don't like deform as easily. And
Yep.
I do like the wax guard though, so more companies should do that in my opinion.
Cool. Let's talk about sound quality.
How do you feel about the bass?
With the bass with this one is, it's a similar kind of thing in the sense that I just feel it's not the right bass profile for this type of tuning, right? Like, it is the right bass profile, or might be a decent bass profile for a different type of tuning, but for this kind of tuning, I just feel it doesn't work. It sounds a bit limp. It's not tactile. It's a bit on the bulbous side, poofy.
Yeah.
I don't know how else I would describe it, but it's that sort of like, there's a lot of bass, but it's not good quality bass. That's my complaint.
Yeah, the bass for me is kind of, as you say, bulbous. I, in my review, linked in the description, called it, like boomy, Harmon-like. Not in that it has the kind of same distance from the bass to the mid-range, like the lower mid-range, but it does have that same kind of like incoherent quality that I don't really like, where the emphasis on mid-bass just kind of like overpowers the mid-range proper. Now, I think it's like an amount that a lot of people will, if not like, expect from IEMs, because I would agree it's too much for this kind of mid-range, but I think with a different kind of mid-range it would have been maybe a better fit. But yeah, as it is right now, I do agree it's kind of overpowering the IEM with too much decay, and it causes the attack to kind of be swamped a little bit.
The bass is very prominent while the rest of it is very smooth. And that sounds like a very palatable thing. But I think what you and I would both say is that for this type of sound signature, a lot of the benefits of that smoothness and that naturalness that you would get from the rest of the tuning, and the whatever technical qualities people might want to talk about with this kind of stuff, that's a little bit overshadowed or lost as a result of the increased bass presence that it has. And while lots of bass presence here might actually be a nice thing, there could be other ways of doing that to balance out that bass level a bit better. That's what I would say about that.
Yeah, because again, the mid-range and lower treble on this thing's fairly solid. It's just, the bass does kind of overshadow what would otherwise be the highlight of this rather good IEM.
Interesting to note, and this is in the measurements here that we're showing you guys, so we have different units here. We actually have evaluated 3 units, and one of them is a bit of an outlier in terms of the amount of bass that it has. So I would expect that the level of bass that you actually get in this IEM is maybe a little bit variable. Anything else that sort of stands out to you in terms of quirks or things? Because this is as the measurements show here, like, this is a really even keel, well measuring IEM.
Yeah, I think in terms of things I would like to mention, yes, most of the mid-range is excellent. I will say that the upper mid-range has a little bit of a later rise to it than I would prefer. So a little bit of the kind of textural intensity and kind of crackliness to upper mid-range elements like piano attack or guitar pick attack are a little bit smoother than I would prefer, especially when compounded with the bass being a little bit north of my preference.
I think that's actually what contributes to the lack of technicalities, as people
for sure. I because what's interesting is when I fixed that with EQ and didn't touch the bass, that already helped quite a bit in making it more quote unquote like technical. And then the last thing I think is probably worth mentioning is the upper treble peak. I found that peak to be much more noticeable with tips that aren't the stock tip, and even with some seatings of the stock tip. I found it to be more bothersome than others, hence kind of my complaint about it deforming differently between seatings.
Okay.
But yeah, I would say overall, even those little quirks are not enough to stop me from saying this is my recommendation at $200 and even above that, honestly.
So overall, yeah, I mean, like, there's a couple of quirks there in the lower treble or mid treble. I don't know what we would say there, but at the $200 price point, again, there's nothing. There's no other IEM that I would really say has issues this minor. So it's like,
Yes,
just in a
yeah.
perfect world, what we'd want, yeah, that's what we're talking
Yeah,
about.
the sins that are committed by other products in this price range are often much more egregious, in my opinion.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm very willing to forgive whatever this IEM has going on in, minor areas of the treble and mid-range and bass, just because as an overall package, it's very strong.
But the key standout one for this, among all of these other kind of new meta IEMs, is that the KE4 is the most comfortable by a country mile.
Yeah.
But again, that's the issue there is that, like, we're just two people, right?
Yes.
For other people, the MegaFest might fit better, the Dusk might fit better, etc. So maybe let's talk about comparing with some of those other IEMs. Out
Sure.
of that entire landscape, like, let's say the landscape is KE4, the Dusk default DSP, the Duna DaVinci, the MegaFest, the Hype 4, not sure if I mentioned that already. Out of all of those, where does the KE4 stack up?
For me, it's at the top. Actually.
Really?
Yeah. So not necessarily in terms of stock sound quality. I will say I probably prefer the mid range on the Dusk to this, and the bass, frankly. But the Dusk actually has the worst treble for me out of any of them.
That's surprising, because the Dusk has the best treble for me.
I mean, that's not that surprising. We often
I
disagree.
guess you're
on
right. It's
treble,
not
I
that
think.
surprising.
Yeah, KE4 is probably the package I would go for. But I also do factor price into that. Like, it is like almost half the price of the Dusk and almost a third of the price of the Mega 5 EST. And it's still less expensive than the Binky or the Dunu DaVinci. But yeah, I mean, in terms of ranking them, I would probably go like KE4 would be my first pick for me. And then it's probably the DaVinci, just because the treble works better for me than the Dusk, even though the ergonomics are so much worse. I would probably still take it over the Dusk. Then it would be the Mega 5 EST, which has better ergonomics than the DaVinci, but worse treble than the DaVinci. Again, just for me. And then Dusk after that. And then, honestly, I wouldn't even really include Hype 4 in this kind of like group of IEMs. It has too much treble overall, but in the low treble as well. But yeah, that would be my, I guess, lowest on the list.
Right. So for me, if it's just sound quality, no ergonomics are considered. It is Dusk default DSP by a significant margin, because that's the only one out of all of these that actually has good quality bass, in my opinion, for this kind of tuning. Like, the bass fits with this kind of tuning, so you actually get the benefits of the mid-range. And for me, the treble on the Dusk default DSP is also the best. That's why that's kind of funny. So for me, Dusk default DSP is clearly the one that wins this comparison. Number two, for just sound quality, and if I couldn't EQ anything, it would actually be the MegaFest. And I'm just not going to say Mega 5 EST, because MegaFest is just so much more fun. I'm all about fun here.
Yeah, clearly. You're the fun guy. Everybody knows that.
I'm the fun one, yeah. Number three would be the Hype 4, because the Hype 4, again, for its overall mid-range tonality, and actually I kind of don't mind its lower treble. It's not perfect, but it's kind of masked by that upper treble emphasis.
Yeah,
it
is
has.
significantly masked by the upper treble. Yeah.
And then after that would be the Duna DaVinci. There's something in the treble about the Duna DaVinci that doesn't work for me very well. Like, it's this kind of like piercing quality. Could be a length mode resonance that I couldn't get along with.
Sure.
And also I found that the bass for the DaVinci was just, at least on the unit that I had, was just way too much. I think it was more on my unit than it might have been on some other units. So there's that. And then I would put KE4 in last place for sound quality, again, because for me, this has the worst quality bass out of the bunch. Even though the level, I think people will like this kind of like excess bass. But I also find that's something in the lower treble here comes across maybe more strongly for me than I think it would maybe for you or for some other people. But again, that's just a nitpick, because I would take all of those over, the vast majority of, let's say, old meta IEMs. No questions asked.
Yes.
And for comfort, the KE4 is clearly the best.
Yeah.
So the other concern is actually with the harmonic distortion for the KE4. But the distortion here, the harmonic distortion, is a bit higher than what we would conventionally see with hybrid configurations in IEM. So IEMs that have balanced armature drivers in them. And in reality, in practice, we know that distortion is not something that, it's not nearly as contributive to the experience as frequency response, and it's not something that's perceptually relevant in the vast majority of cases.
For sure.
But it is something where I would like it to be less, so that I think we can happily, we can be more confident in the overall result, and overall just more confident that this isn't something that is going to be variable from unit to unit basis.
Yeah. Having that assurance would be nice, for sure.
Yeah.
I do want to ask you, are there any like subjective aspects that you feel like this does well at? Because I felt like it was actually one of the better IEMs for soundstage and spaciousness. And
oh yeah, definitely. I mean, again, that's not a quality that I uniquely index for.
Me
like
neither.
I think some other folks might.
Yeah.
But I do still hear it. I do still know. Like
yes, it does exist, despite neither of us really caring that much about it.
Yeah. Yeah, like I can put myself into that headspace and go like, yes, the soundstage, I can hear it.
Yes.
But this is one that does have that quality more substantially, I think, than other IEMs.
Yeah.
Like, especially IEMs that are more forward in that region. Like, I'm thinking of like the Dunu SA6, for example. This does soundstage seemingly better. So yeah, I would say the spaciousness effect is definitely there with this one. Not so much that sense of dynamics, not so much that sense of like, textural qualities, but it also doesn't sound blunted in any way. Like I don't hear this as sounding like particularly, I'm not like leaning forward to hear more.
Yeah, it's not muffled or like occluding anything. It's just a little soft and pillowy.
Yeah, soft and pillowy, right?
Yeah.
Like it's generally a natural, pleasant presentation overall.
Sure.
With just a little bit of like pillowiness to it, right? A little bit of softness to it overall. But yeah, overall, is this the IEM to get at $200? That's the question.
I mean, I would say easily yes. And I mean, we kind of spoiled it by saying it earlier in the review. But yeah, it's a pretty easy yes for me. The flaws it has are by no means egregious. It's, unlike a lot of the IEMs it's competing with, actually fairly comfortable. So yeah, very few complaints. Yeah, what about you?
I think it is the product to get at $200, or the IEM to get at $200. Because it is a palatable, inoffensive, balanced, natural sound signature, despite some of our, more nitpicky gripes about some of the things. My main reason for saying that this is, the IEM that I would choose at $200 is definitely due to its comfort, and its sound quality is just generally good, even if it's not great, right?
Yep.
That's how I'm going to characterize it for me. And we don't talk enough about the importance of ergonomics or that kind of stuff, and this one really just nails that for me.
For sure.
So it's a very easy recommendation in that respect. I wish it had a little bit less harmonic distortion. I wish that it was a bit tighter in the bass and a bit more, textured. I don't know.
That's the word I was going to use.
Mid-range character.
Yeah.
That 2K thing, the dip at 2K is the only other thing really for me, and then maybe the treble. It's almost there. But for its ergonomics, it is there, and that's really the thing that makes me say, yes, this is the IEM that I would choose at $200.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I would say exactly the same.
Easy recommendation.
Easy recommendation.
All right, and that basically does it from us. Do you want to take us out?
Yeah, so as a reminder, all of this is made possible by headphones.com. So if you like what we do here and want to support us, go ahead and hit the like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell. But also, next time you're thinking about making a headphone purchase, consider doing it at headphones.com. And with that, it's been Resolve and Listener talking about the KE4. We like this thing. Have a good rest of your day.
Bye.